And if people can introduce themselves and say who they represent before they speak. Now, because of the large crowd, and I imagine the amount of people who want to speak, we'll have to confine you to 3 minutes each. And I'll remind you at 2.5 minutes. Okay.
Can we just remind ourselves that this campaign against the poll tax, against the right-wing establishment and the economic agenda should be kept and should be open to community activists who may not be here, who may not be aware, that we don't want bright sparks flying in and telling us that they represent Dublin 1 or Dublin 8 and who wouldn't recognise the people in the areas. It should be locally based, open and democratic, non-sectarian, to beat these bastards.
Okay.
Michael Taft, Unite the Union. I just have a message from our regional secretary, Jimmy Kelly, who gives his apologies for not being able to attend here today, but he wanted me to convey the message that Unite the Union is fully committed not only to opposing and defeating the household charge, but we're working with all community groups, social organisations and activists around the country to bring that about. Thank you.
I live in Dublin, Parkland student in Dublin Business School, and I'm also a property owner of 2 properties. Basically, I just want to explain, I just can't believe the arrogance of this government, the Fine Gael Labour government, so-called Labour Party, by the way, and the lies and promises they told us, voting yes to Lisbon for jobs and recovery. Twice we were asked to vote yes for jobs and for recovery in this country, and the arrogance of this crowd, and we should be holding these people with our promises if we vote for them, that for Lisbon and for the EU. Basically, we should be holding them responsible for what they said in Lisbon Treaty, and if we vote for Fine Gael Labour, and that this wasn't the agenda where we had paid more taxes and a lot of jobs being lost. And what we need is a plan B. There's no point saying no to everything, no, no, no. We should be saying to the EU, we start clipping Irish pounds again. We need to have a plan B. Instead of saying no to everything, we need a plan. Pull out, if you need to pull out the EU, getting our national resources back, looking after local jobs, local Irish jobs, let it be. But what I'm saying is we don't have much power. No matter who gets into this government at the moment, the EU is running the country. No matter who gets in and they're calling the shots, we need to get back our independence from the EU, from Brussels, from the France and Germany-led Europe. Okay, thanks. Good luck.
My name is John McAnulty. I'm a member of Socialist Democracy. Really what I have to share with the meeting is the experience of the largest non-payment movement there ever was in Ireland, which was the rent and rate strike in the north after internment. And I think the message I want to bring from that absolutely enormous struggle, which went on for years and was eventually defeated, is that non-payment is a tactic. It's not a strategy. You decide not to pay, and then the state tries to attack you, so you have to have methods of defence. You also need to have medium-term strategic objectives. What can you take from the government? What aim can you set up to take away from the government that will hurt them? How can you hurt them? Besides sitting there trying to defend yourself, how can you hurt the enemy? And I would say that the main thing that working people in this country can do to hurt the enemy is to smash social partnership. The unions aren't in hiding. They're at the top table with the government enforcing these things. I think the only other thing I want to say is we want to be careful not to just attack part of the problem. The collection of revenue is part of the problem. The other part of the problem is that the services where the revenue has been collected are earmarked for privatisation. At the end of this process, Ireland will have no public services, and we can't ignore that aspect of it.
My name's Owen Carden. I'm from the West Donegal, campaigning against the household taxes. Now, we have an issue, and maybe we should talk about the second narrative, but it's to do with the separate tax, which we feel is a very strong issue in our country. But I think we need to give it a bit more thought than it's been given already, even though Joe mentioned it. But the other point is, Joe talked about a broad campaign and bringing in people from outside, people who might not have been politically involved before or haven't been for a long time. But we also have the thing about people and political groups are calling to say don't pay the tax, but they're saying that they oppose it, but they're not saying not to pay it. How do we work, or how do we work with people who are maybe getting, these politicians are getting the ear of a certain amount of people at the moment? How do we walk along with these people and carry on, or how do we do that? Because there's quite our part of the goal, there's quite influential politicians who are quite prepared to go with the flow, but they're not prepared to lead anything. I'm just wondering how do we do that, you know?
Because I'm from the Workers' Solidarity Movement and a postman in Dublin too, living in Skays. I have to say one thing, this campaign needs a lot of work, but needs less work than the campaign in the 90s that was the anti-water tax campaign, because people that at present, with 250,000 people unemployed, migrants, etc., they don't have the money to avail them for that kind of taxation. It would be very, very easy for us if we put a little bit of effort to convince them. When you can't give nothing, you wouldn't give it. You don't have it, you wouldn't give it. So we should pump currents out of each other, get out on the streets, organize out in the campaign, and convince our colleagues, our friends, our neighbors to get on board and give them the fingers. That's it.
Sean Dollar, Independent Workers Union. I'd just like to say, I think we should all get our labels, spit them out today, and I hope as this campaign progresses, we will leave our banners and our egos out of it. Because I have no doubt that parties came before issues, and if we can just raise above these party banners and our egos, and bring the fight back where it belongs against the government. Some of the campaigns, I'm sure you have been on yourselves, against closure of hospitals and everything else. The actual display of partisanship, and was purely, when you look around you, made up of, but the members of the public were not there. We must realise, to get people involved, we must provide a platform without egotists and party banners. Thank you.
I'm really pleased with the turnout today, but I think we have to really think about what we're doing here. I know when Phil Hogan first came out and said that they're going to bring in €100 charge, property household tax, and the response from people was just overwhelming on the radios, and people saying that they won't pay, and people saying that they can't pay. But that's okay saying that. When it comes to the country, we have to be organised well enough to give people the confidence not to pay that. It's a very serious call to discuss with people, don't pay this, because people don't know where this is going to go, how long it's going to go, how far it's going to go, etc. So I think it's a very serious call, and I agree with other speakers that it has to be a well organised, work together campaign, that people are working to defeat this tax. That's what we're here for, nothing else to defeat this tax in relation to it, explaining also why the IMF and the EU and this government are opposing on the citizens of this nation. So I think it's going to be a very important campaign. We are calling on people to do something that's quite a serious step. So we have to treat it very, very seriously, and we have to build a campaign that is strong enough to defend those people in the long run. Thanks.
Kieran, Assistant Officer and Socialist Worker. I just want to add 3 points quickly, right? I think first of all, the thing we've got to convince people is that if you pay this charge, you're going to end up paying €1,000 in a year or two's time. And we have to use the statements of John Fitzgerald, who's basically summarising the strategy of the Commission of Taxation, which is a right-wing group of accountants and so on, who've said quite clearly that $1 billion has to be raised from property taxes. That's their agenda, and that's the first thing I think we've got to convince people of. In response to the question about how we deal with parties, I presume he's talking about Sinn Féin, who say they're against the charge, but are not actually for a non-payment charge. I think that people in this campaign should democratically and openly at meetings try to convince people why they should collectively stand together and boycott the charge and have that as a vote, and take on the argument to people who say you should simply oppose it verbally but not actually do anything about it. I just want to make 2 more specific points. First of all, the unions. It's very, very good that Unite's on board. I want to just give a quick report on SIP2. SIP2 is having a conference on the 3rd of October. At that conference, the leadership, which is run by the Labour Party, are essentially saying we will oppose the property charge and the water tax only if it is not done on a progressive basis. I'm summarising it, right? In other words, the Labour Party position pretending to be a little bit against it, but in reality, as soon as they move from a flat charge to a value-based charge, they'll be for it, right? There's many people in SIP2 who are against the leadership, right? So there's a number of us going as delegates to conference. It is important we try to win the SIP2 organisation, first of all, to oppose the water tax and the property tax, right? So I think that's important. Anybody involved in SIP2, there's a meeting, some of us on the 19th of September on some of those issues. And lastly, just to add, I think that there's one sting on the tail in this one in terms of the campaign. That is that if you don't pay after 3 months, it's €10 a month after that. And they're going to use this as a tactic of fear to get at people. And therefore I think it's quite important that the campaign establishes first of all and primarily a base of non-payment locally, and I agree completely with Joe, involving hundreds of people, not just you know the politicals and so on, bringing in lots of people. But as soon as that base is established, and alongside establishing that base, it is also important we're very visible on the streets in very, very large numbers. And I think that one of the lessons of the poll tax in Britain, it was a combination of both the non-payment and mass mobilisation on the streets, serious mass mobilisation on the streets that defeated Maggie Thatcher. And I think we have to have that mobilisation starting immediately. And certainly I'll invite anybody, if you're around this Wednesday in Dublin, the Dáil is opening. As many of us as possible should get down there for 2 demonstrations, one at 4 o'clock in education and one at 6 o'clock called by the Enough campaign. Okay, thanks.
I'm just curious about this. In the bin tax campaign, we went to court, we represented people, we supported people, and some of us didn't pay and some of us are still not paying the same tax. I'm just curious, if what that man says is true, if after 3 months you don't pay, then it's €10 each month, right? At that stage, is it a case of when your house is sold, they come after you for that money? Or is it still the same, what are they going to do basically? That's what I'm curious about. Do you know that yet? No?
We haven't got the legislation yet, so we don't know exactly what they're going to do, but those things are possible.
Yeah.
And probably likely.
There's no intention of paying. I didn't pay I didn't pay the bin tax. I have no intention of paying this one either.
Thanks. My name's Sean Loud and I live in Drumcondra. I wasn't here for your bin tax and your water charge campaigns. I'm sorry I missed it, but I was in the UK for the anti-poll tax campaign, very involved in that. And just really following on from what the last 2 or 3 speakers said, one of the things that made that successful, and it was successful, I mean, we not only did we get rid of the poll tax, we got rid of Thatcher as well. So, you know, and one of the things that she got off quite lightly actually, because in 1381, when they tried to do it, we hung the bastards. So, you know, I'm not suggesting we hang Henry Kenny or anything, but Henry Kenny, no. Well, maybe. Just to come back to what the thing that made it really successful on the ground was that when ordinary people asked us very, very simple, basic questions like what is going to happen, the one that used to come up all the time is will I have to go to prison? Another one was will I have a criminal record? And we were very organised from the start with information sheets and leaflets and all the rest, giving specific answers to those questions. And now, systems are different. I don't know what the answers to those questions are over here, but we really need to be able to answer those questions fully so that people are fully informed and reassured, because and in the UK, the answer was, it's probably not as bad as you think it's going to be. The worst that you think could happen probably won't, and it's probably the case over here. But people really do need to have that information, because faced with that information and the wider campaign that's going to go on, there's more chance of sticking with it, and having the confidence to not pay. Because not everybody comes to meetings like this. Not everybody is as confident or as politically aware as we are. And it's a big thing for people to do, so they really do need to have that reassurance and to be instilled with that confidence. Thank you.